A dark Avenger with special abilities and high-tech gadgets fighting a shadowy war on crime in a great American city. Who is this masked man? Is he a ghost? Is he an urban legend? Is he a villain or a hero? He's the star of a fairly successful comic book series, an episode of a well-regarded animated show, and star of a live-action television series. That's right, we're talking about Nightman in this video, and how he came into pop culture and then vanished without a trace. Before we continue with this video, don't forget, if you like what you see, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and you can become a member right here on YouTube for as little as $1, or if you're in a position to help the show, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/collectorsconfessions. Nightman is the superhero code name of a saxophone player named Johnny Domingo. He actually goes by the stage name Johnny Domino because, I don't know, jazz or something. Anyway, one night, Johnny is driving in his cool Mazda Miata. They actually specify that it is a Mazda Miata in the comics. And he crashes into a runaway cable car. This is in San Francisco. And at the exact moment that he crashes into the cable car, a weird bolt of lightning hits the cable car at the same time. Now, we find out later that this is something called the jumpstart effect, which actually turns people into superheroes, or in this case, ultras. And all of the people in the cable car get turned into superheroes. They eventually become a team called the Strangers, again, in the Ultraverse. Johnny ends up in a coma, and his prognosis isn't good because he's got a piece of shrapnel lodged in his head. The doctors don't expect much. But he does miraculously heal and wake up from the coma, and he has two special abilities now. First off, he can see in the dark really well because his pupils are permanently dilated, possibly because of the shrapnel lodged in his brain. I don't know. And also, he can, probably because of the lightning strike, now hear the evil thoughts of other people. So if somebody's thinking of doing something evil, he can hear their thoughts and take action to stop it. And all of this come together, he becomes the superhero Nightman. One of the other side effects of Johnny's powers is he now has prolonged insomnia. He can't really sleep at night. So he uses all this free time and channels it into a search for justice, using his high-tech suit and gadgets that he makes and a bunch of other stuff. How does this all come about? Well, Nightman was created by Steve Englehart, and any of you Batman fans should be familiar with that name. Steve Englehart wrote some of the best Batman stories of the early 1980s, and Rick Hoberg. And they were created for inclusion in something called the Ultraverse, which was owned by Malibu Comics, which was one of the original publishers of Image Comics. There's a whole history of the Ultraverse and Malibu and a few other comic book companies that's super interesting and does have a little bit of impact here, but actually that's a subject for a separate video coming soon from Collectors Confessions. Anyway, Nightman first appeared in The Strangers #1 in June of 1993 as his civilian self, Johnny Domino. Then he becomes Nightman in Nightman #1 in October of 1993. Nightman #1 was written by Steve Englehart with illustrations by Derek Robertson. Yes, the same Derek Robertson who would later go on to do Transmetropolitan, which is a great series. Anyway, the first volume of the series ran for 23 issues, ending in August of 1995 when they had a crossover event with Marvel Comics called Black September, where members of the Ultraverse, the really popular members, were transferred over into the Marvel Universe. Now, the style of the Nightman series was very year one, is what the way most people writing about it talk about it. We actually watch Johnny as he develops as a superhero. He's not sort of like a full-grown, all-out into it superhero from the get-go. We actually see him develop the skills he needs as the series goes on. The move to Marvel Universe happened right after Marvel had purchased Malibu Comics. Originally, it was rumored that Marvel purchased Malibu because they wanted their innovative coloring techniques, but the actual reason they bought them is a little more plain, a little more capitalistic. They actually bought Malibu when it came up for sale to keep DC from buying it, so DC couldn't increase their market share against the House of Ideas. So really it was like, get it before they do kind of thing. Well, anyway, they tried to, do right by the characters they took from the Ultraverse, and Nightman was relaunched with a new #1 in 1995 from Marvel Comics. Unfortunately, the new Nightman series only lasted about 4 issues and then was canceled. He did do a crossover one-shot where he meets up with Wolverine. He and Wolverine team up, the Nightman. And then there was a 3-issue limited series where the character teamed up with Gambit, both of them preferring the flowing hair out of the top of their masks, I assume. That's probably what they had in common. Since then, Nightman and the other Ultraverse characters have been completely missing from comic books. Marvel has them tucked away somewhere, and they are not using them. The last time they approached anyone to bring them out of retirement was 2003, and they asked Steve Englehart if he would come in to revive the characters for Marvel. He agreed, but then nothing came from it. And the reason behind this is there's some problems, apparently, with the contract they have with a guy named Scott Mitchell Rosenberg, who was the original owner of Malibu Comics and a few other comic book publishers during the 1980s. For more on that, stay tuned for our much more detailed history of the Ultraverse and all the other stuff that Scott Mitchell Rosenberg was up to at the time. It's really an amazing story. Look out for it. Subscribe so you don't miss it. There was some television action coming from all of this. What? There was an Ultraverse animated show that ran for 1 season from 1995 to 1996.
Of course. Kevin seems like an ordinary kid, but get him mad, and he becomes Prime, the mightiest of all Ultras. Join Prime and the rest of the Ultra Force as they battle the most dangerous Ultra villains the world has ever known. Ultra Force, the ultimate hero.
Sunday morning at 9 on Kids WB56.
Nightman appeared in episode 7 called Night and the Nightman. Then, as most people know the character, he was the subject of a live-action syndicated television series created by none other than Glenn A. Larson from Knight Rider, Battlestar Galactica, Magnum P.I., etc. And Nightman ran for 2 seasons in syndication from September 15th, 1997 to May 17th, 1998.
Freak accident or one man's destiny. Johnny Domino is blessed.
I felt what he was thinking.
Some say cursed.
I hear voices.
With extraordinary powers and the will to use them. Evil's worst nightmare is about to begin. The world premiere of Nightman.
Tonight at 8 on the WB 11.
And one of the really interesting parts of the television show was that Nightman teamed up with characters from previous Glenn A. Larson shows. For example, the first episode of Nightman has David Hasselhoff in it as Michael Knight. And then there's an episode in the second season called Manimal, where he teams up with Dr. Jonathan Chase, the character from Glenn A. Larson's short-lived sci-fi show Manimal, which is, if you're a fan of 80s sci-fi action TV, this is a good series to check out. Both the Ultraforce animated series and the Nightman show are available on DVD, but not Blu-ray yet. But you can watch both series streaming on Tubi.com. If you're interested in checking them out, they're there waiting for you. Now, since we're always focused on collectibles here, you've got the 23 issues of the comic book, you got the 4 issues of the Marvel run, you've got the one-shot for Wolverine, you've got the 3-issue limited series where he teams up with Gambit. Gambit's very hot right now, so that might be a cool thing to pick up. They also had toys. They had an Ultraforce line of toys for the Ultraforce characters. Ultraforce was sort of the equivalent of the Justice League or Avengers in the Ultraverse, right? But they included Nightman, I suppose, because he showed up on the television series, right? I managed to pick this up recently at a thrift store for the low price of $10. It's kind of a cool little artifact, I think. So, that was from Galoob, and all of those figures were released in 1995. I don't think it was successful because there was no second line put out of these action figures. Like the mysterious lightning that granted him his powers, Nightman flashed through the popular culture of the 1990s and vanished just as quickly. And his future remains as difficult to predict as predicting when that lightning might strike again. All the fans can do is watch and wait and see what Marvel is going to do with these characters that people really, really seem to enjoy. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You could become a member of Collectors Confessions for as little as $1 right here on YouTube, or if you're a little bit better off financially and you want to support the show, go check us out on patreon.com/collectorsconfessions. Until then, collect what you love and love what you collect.
We would be honored if you would join us.